but they'll never take our freedom!
Welcome to the next generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
What's up, Alpha Warrior family? It is June 22nd, 2026. It's been a hell of a day. And welcome to a conversation with just Alpha. It is going to be a fire show today. I got to make a camera adjustment here because something is going to drive me crazy. You guys can't see it, but I can see it, and it's going to drive me absolutely bonkers. So bear with me a second, folks, because I don't want that to distract me throughout the show. Because we are live. So hopefully there. I had to make myself a little centered, bring it in there. It would have bugged me. You guys know the way I am. OCD, right? Marine Corps. Had to get it taken care of. So if you haven't done so already, push the heart, smash the thumb, leave a comment. Let's get this show out there because we're going to cover a lot today. And as always, whatever we don't finish today, we'll go into tomorrow's Just Alpha 2.0, along with the second segment of the show that we have. So what are some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight? Well, the cat's out of the bag, right? Let's get to the obvious. It'll be in the later part of the show because we got to build up to it because there's a rhyme and a reason to the way I do my things. And I see Miss Rhea Freedom Fighters talking trash already. Alpha, I also have ADHD. Okay, so you understand with me. So you're rolling with that. But the White House goes and confirms Q. And I know you guys have heard a lot of perspective. The haters have been hating, the lovers have been loving. Everybody else is like, what the heck's going on? But it's definitely making the fake people expose themselves, because why would you be so mad about that? Why would you be so against it? Probably because you've been calling it wrong from the very beginning. But before we do all that, I want to get into a couple of the amazing people that allow me to keep this show running for free. Over the last few weeks, you've heard me talk about an amazing company, and I'm going to be talking about them again tonight. So let me put this right across the bottom of the screen so you can see. We've talked about the F bombs, we've talked about the F magnets, but there's one little keychain one that I absolutely adore. Right there. Your approval is not required. And this is for some of y'all in the chat, right? Some of y'all in the chat is like, Alpha, we're on Alpha time. 30 minutes with an Alpha intro. Listen, all right? Right there. I don't even got to say nothing. You just got to read, okay? Now I'm just playing because you guys do support and sponsor the channel. But I just want to talk a little trash. The other thing is tonight, these Alpha mugs, too. If you go to AlphaWarrior.tv and get yourself those Alpha mugs. And why is that important? Because I drink coffee for your safety. And a little grouchy tonight, dealing with all them haters. Oh, now everybody's in the chat laughing. Now I see the LOLs. Oh, yeah. Y'all got scared, huh? You got scared. You know why you got scared? Because I'm F-bomb certified. You don't want to mess with that. Folks, thingsofholding.com. Thingsofholding.com. When you use code ALPHA10, Alpha 10, you're going to get an additional 10% off. And there's so many cool things at this site. You're going to see decals. You're going to see other content creators that this person has teamed up with. I don't know if they want me to dox who they are, so I'm navigating that very carefully. But one of the things you guys can, somebody says, I got my Alpha mug today, 20 ounces. Casa Chen, you see what I'm talking about? Listen, some of you have ordered coffee mugs before, and you get this little dainty coffee cup, right? Like, listen, the original Alpha coffee mugs I did with everybody else. I was like, these are cool. I said, nah, like, who wants to refill their thing over and over? This thing's massive, folks. If you don't know, hold on, let me grab my Yeti. Because with my water, just so you know, these Alpha mugs, they're built like us, folks, warriors. I've also dropped that damn thing in the sink. The kids have dropped it. Everybody, right? And this thing's there. It's not even chipped. So AlphaWarrior.tv. But again, go and show some love. Look how cool. You don't want this? What's wrong with you? Set the trend. I already told you guys. You go and put it on a post and you tag me, I'm going to be right there on board with you. So thingsofholding.com. That link's down in the description. I'll let it go across the bottom of the screen for a little while. And again, code ALPHA10 for additional 10% off. Who else are we going to talk about? Well, if we're going to get our health on, we're going to get Pet Club. And we'll be back.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
AlphaWarrior247.com. You'll get all your good Pet Club stuff. I'll probably show them a little bit later on the show when we have some time, but it is time to get into this bad boy. So let's get lined up. Why did I choose this Braveheart scene as the intro? Well, one, Ed Martin, Eagle Ed Martin posted this a few days ago, June 18th, 2:45 a.m., right? 5:45 a.m. on the East Coast. And Braveheart's one of my favorite movies. If you guys don't know, Braveheart, Gladiator, they kind of battle along with Top Gun. Like that number one spot kind of changes, but one of those three is always going to be in the number one spot. But again, Squirrel. Why Braveheart? One of the things he says in this movie, and it's always resonated with me from when I was a young kid and I first saw this movie, to the climate that we live in today with our country. The guy says, he goes, no, we're not going to fight. Do you see that? Do you see that overwhelming force out there? They got archers. They got cavalry. They got shields and armor. They got superior weapon systems. They got superior numbers. They got elevation on us. Everything says that we are going to die. We won't win this fight. And he tells them, run and you may live. Many years from now, when you're laying in your bed and you're getting ready to take your last breaths, and you start to put a value to the life you live, because here's the thing, folks, for those of us that are not taken by surprise, we are going to have moments as we take those last breaths to measure the value of our life, the great parts and the regrets. And he says, would you not trade everything from now to then for one chance to be free and not be ruled in fight? And ladies and gentlemen, we are in that time. Now, we're very fortunate because we have a president who's put people in very strategic positions publicly as well as covertly. And these people are helping us in order to minimize the loss of life. And someone's saying, you're a moderator, don't ban me. If somebody gets crazy, y'all let me know. But I know you guys are pretty good at keeping track of each other. But if you guys see someone that's disturbing the chat, let me know. But again, we're in that moment. And we do got one shot. We got one shot. So I just want to remind you folks, as we go through the show tonight, and we set some stuff up. I got another about midway through the show tonight. There's another video clip that's going to put things into perspective between now and then. And I really think tonight will probably be one of the most important shows that we do. Maybe not one of the most exciting, but definitely one of the most important ones on some of the stuff that we want to cover. So with that, let's get into this bad boy, right? That's enough. That's enough of a rant, Alpha. Everybody's gone here. You filibustered enough. How can I? It's my show. Of course I'm going to filibuster. Do me a solid, folks. Don't be lazy. Whatever platform you're watching on, hit the thumb, hit the heart, leave a comment, and share it out. Sean Parnell, shout out to this guy. He's been on me and CanCon's show with SitRep. He's had us on his show, and now he's doing great work with his friend and with his boss, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. But he says 1 year ago, American war fighters executed one of the most complex and daring military operations in modern history. Operation Midnight Hammer was historic. As a matter of fact, I think oh no, this is Absolute Resolve. I was like, am I wearing the Midnight Hammer one? I could have that shirt too. Sorry, folks. I wanted to know. But he posted this 1 year. And so for those of you that don't know about it, June 22nd, a year ago, is when we went and dropped the hammer. So right out of the gate, I wanted to remind us of that. Next on deck, America First Legal says the Ninth Circuit grants preliminary injunction blocking California's child transition secrecy law. America's First Legal and Scherer Jaff LLP just secured a huge win for the parental rights, vindicating the rights of families fighting against California's radical attempt to hide children's gender transition from parents. If you don't know, over the last couple of years, there was some extreme lunatics here that use lawfare to go and legally attack parents. These kids were able to do things covertly with the schools, do things covertly with the doctors, and literally had these secrecy things where other adults were going to be helping their children to do things that I consider irreversible. That damage is done. And of course, the Ninth Circuit came in here and gave us a big win there. So California, we are going to take it back, folks. California is not going to be surrendered to the Democrats. House Republican says the Second Amendment is your right. It is not up for negotiation. Republicans will always defend it. Then where are you at, GOP? Because I've been reaching out to all you guys to help me because I won my case. I have a court order to get my firearms back. And the city of Rialto Police Department refuses to give them back, and the state of California is backing them up because they want me to complete a form. Since when is a form have more power than a court order? Last time I checked, if I violated a court order, it'd be at a minimum a misdemeanor. And yet here we are, a year and a half later, they've been violating it. So If the House Republicans truly mean that the Second Amendment is my right and our right, I would love to see one of you guys reach out. And if anybody wants to reach out to Harmeet's team, I would appreciate that too. But they did get community noted here. The Republican Party failed to get the HPA and Short Acts into final version of the OBBB while holding the House, the Senate, and the presidency. There are some Republicans in it that truly are fighting for it. And I know Harmeet is one of those. I know Attorney General Pam Bondi was one of the ones that was trying. I think Todd Blanche will carry that torch. But we need to let them know that we want them to kind of light a fire and move with a little sense of urgency, especially given the tumultuous times that are coming in front of us. And then on top of that, we have HSS Rapid Response says, quote, since President Trump came into office, obesity rates in the country have dropped by 2.5%. You heard that right, folks. That's the first drop in 50 years. Trump is not only securing our sovereignty, he's rebalancing the economic battlefield of the entire globe or flat earth, whatever you believe in, like all that, securing our borders, and he's making people skinny again. Like, get out of here. How can you not love this president? He's 50 years. We're 2.5% that we've dropped obesity. So Trump is such a good president that even though he promotes McDonald's, don't be eating that nasty shit. We got obesity down 2.5%. So not only is he the greatest president, he's also making people skinny again. And here we go. Let's take a listen to this one.
Since President Trump came into office, obesity rates in this country have dropped by 2.5%. That's the first drop in 50 years. And that drop alone will have significant impacts on healthcare costs in this country because obesity drives about 80% of chronic disease. 48 cents out of every dollar that you pay to the federal government in taxes is now going to treat for healthcare, and about 90% of that is spent on treating chronic disease. When my uncle was president, we spent zero on chronic disease. And today, we were the healthiest country in the world. Today, we're the sickest. We have the highest chronic disease burden. As you pointed out, 35% of American adults are obese. When my uncle was president, 3% of children were obese. Now it's 40% or 20%. 70% of adults are obese or overweight. And 77% of our kids cannot qualify for military service because of chronic disease, mainly obesity. This has national security implications. It is absolutely destroying our country economically. It's the biggest cause.
And that's the main thing, all the issues that come along with it. So again, maha for America. I love it. And Trump is making people skinny again. I love that even more. Let's keep going because we have a long show tonight. Department of War, and they'll be coming back up a little bit later. You guys know what I'm talking about. Over 2/3 of the Department of War has officially transitioned off Anthropic models and daily workflows in favor of alternative AI vendors. The department will no longer be single-threaded to one AI provider. Our warfighters will have access to a diverse suite of AI capabilities to ensure that they achieve true decision superiority. Why is that a good thing? Because it means these companies are going to be competitive. It means that they're not just going to secure this huge Department of War contract and then kind of just be happy with what they delivered. You know, oh, maybe the customer service is good. Maybe the upgrading of software updates is good. Now they're going to be forced to do it because there's going to be other companies that are going to be like, hey, we got something that's over here too. So the fact that they're going to have multiple companies that are available to our guys, I'm on board with that. And again, this artificial intelligence, if you guys haven't tracked it, it is everywhere, folks. Think about one theme. Medical field, we're talking artificial intelligence. Media, we're talking artificial intelligence. Crypto, everything is artificial intelligence. And think about when it was commercially released, like in a large scale. That was not too long ago. And yet now it's a part of almost every conversation we have. And that's going to get even bigger when we get towards the end of the show today. So let's keep pushing on. U.S. Department of Justice today, U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen for DMN News announced the unsealing of a federal indictment charging 15 defendants with conspiracy to impede or injure federal officers and others related to the efforts of two Minneapolis-based Antifa groups that violently oppose the enforcement of federal law. When we go to listen to the video here, listen to the charges he talks about. I believe it's probably about a halfway into it, maybe 2/3 into it. But the most important thing is here is listen to the charges he brings up, and you'll understand why. So let me hit play.
I said that political violence is a national scourge in our times. Today, I can disclose to you further actions by federal law enforcement in combating that violence. Last year, President Trump issued National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, which directed the Department of Justice to prioritize politically motivated violence. To accomplish that mission, the Deputy Attorney General stood up Joint Task Force Vanguard to enforce a national security strategy to investigate, prosecute, and disrupt those who engage in political violence and intimidation. Today, a federal indictment was unsealed, charging 15 defendants with conspiracy to impede or injure federal officers and other charges related to efforts of two Minneapolis-based Antifa groups that violently opposed the enforcement of federal law in our state. The defendants are members and associates of Direct Action Minnesota. They are charged with conspiracy to impede or injure a federal officer, solicitation to commit a crime of violence, interstate threats, interstate stalking, assault on a federal officer, and destruction of government property. Earlier this morning, agents of Homeland Security Investigations conducted a coordinated law enforcement operation culminating in the arrest of 12 of the 15 defendants. One defendant had already been in custody on other federal charges. 2 defendants remain fugitives at large. Today's charges and arrests reflect a broad federal effort to address organized lawless behavior which seeks to disrupt the execution of federal law, endanger law enforcement, and importantly, endanger the very communities that these defendants falsely claim to be protecting.
Now, if you didn't catch it, let's just recap 2 points here that are pretty important. When he was talking about the charges, he was talking about conspiracy. He also talked about crossing state lines. And at the very end of that, if you were listening to what he said organized crime. Why does this matter, folks? Because this is not just Antifa thugs. This isn't just, property damage and vandalism and, obstructing, resisting law enforcement. He's talking about conspiracy and organized crimes across state lines. What he's telling you, folks, is RICO. Something that if you've been watching this show for a while, you know how important this is to me because of how important this is to the bigger picture of what's going on in this country. Antifa is going to be designated as part of the rank and file that operates for the deep state. Mark my words. It is going to happen. You are not going to see a difference on the way it's delivered other than one's domestic and one's international, but you're going to see Antifa have the same weight when it's delivered in the judicial system as the cartels, MS-13, Tren de Aragua. Except, again, this is going to be a domestic one. Some would even argue maybe of international too, if you look at some of the groups that operate like in Europe and they make the connection to those. And I don't see that as far-fetched. I see that as something that's happening. So again, this is a pretty important deal. I want to make sure we cover that. Continuing on, Homeland Security. The alleged ringleader of the failed terror attack against targeting the UFC Freedom 250 is an illegal alien. Imagine that. Abraham Hermosillo Alvarez from Mexico planned, organized, and directed the planned attack. He was arrested by the FBI on June 14th, and ICE has lodged a detainer against him. Alvarez failed to leave the country when his B-2 tourist visa expired in 2001. He was granted DACA by the Obama administration. This illegal alien should never have been allowed in our country, and we will ensure he faces justice and is swiftly removed from our nation. A little bit more on this guy right here. Bill Mulligan puts out breaking details via the federal arrest affidavit revealed that a California man named Michael Allen Thomas was one of the alleged organizers of the alleged UFC White House terror plot. Feds say that he admitted he believes that the U.S. government is run by elites who sacrifice and eat children, had involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, and are protected by President Trump. Now, this part right here, I want us to focus on real quick. Let me zoom in on this to make it a little easier for some of you guys to see. If you guys have been battling in the trenches of social media warfare with me, you've seen a lot of spaces that have been putting out this kind of rhetoric. These are the Ian Carrolls, the Nick Fuenteses, the Candace Owens, the Tucker Carlsons, the Joe Kents. You know, some of these people are going to get mentioned in the show later on. These were the people that were taking something that is very, very plausible. Some would argue absolutely real, uncontested, when we talk about some of these atrocities and crimes that have been committed against children. We know how real the Jeffrey Epstein situation is. But these people went and created the storyline. They created the narrative that President Trump was trying to protect these people. And if you guys have followed the shows over the last year and a half of this going on, you saw when I said they are doing this on purpose. The Candace Owens and them are doing this on purpose. Some of you guys know, you guys are so smart. I know you know where I'm going with this already. One of the things I said is they know the crazies that listen to them. Everybody has them. I got them here too. So if I have them on the small size platform that I have, what do you think that Tucker Carlson's and the Candace Owens and the Jake Shields and the Dan Bilzerians and Nick Fuentes has? They have a lot of these crazies. And they say this kind of rhetoric because they know that there's a few clowns like this that are going to get caught up with operatives that are also operating in these spaces to create tragic events like this. Now, the difference here is we actually have an FBI now that a lot of you were trying to hate on and rug pull. We actually have an FBI now that is preventing these things before they even happen, not responding after the fact. And at some point, that's probably going to happen too, because you can't stop 100% of the attacks. And if they do, that would be a damn first. But just remember where this originated from, why this problem exists. Investigators took screenshots of his signal chats in which details of the plot were discussed and maps of the UFC event were shown with suggestions on where snipers should be placed. Feds also recovered rifles and ammo. Sources tell colleague David Spunt those in custody are American citizens and there's no foreign nexus believed to be at play. However, you guys saw one of them did have the DACA from Obama. So that's the clarification there. And again, let me bring these up so you guys can see that these guys were not just trash talking and somebody's saying there's no way. Did Candace really? I'm not buying that. So that would be all over the news if that was the case. Somebody's trying to distract me. It worked a little bit. But here you go. You got the weapon systems. You got the plate carriers with the ammo pouches. And then obviously part of the affidavit. Let's keep going. Let me zoom out a little bit. Army Counterintelligence Command on June 21st, 2025, Joseph Daniel Schmidt, a former U.S. Army sergeant, pleaded guilty to attempting to deliver national defense information and retention of national defense information. He was later sentenced to 4 years in prison. Now, again, this is my speculation, but for this kind of crime and to get 4 years, what that tells me is he was cooperating, which I think a lot of these people are going to do. He was absolutely cooperating and saying, hey, this is how they approach me. This is how he gave them everything that they needed to know to find the other people in our military that have been compromised. And that's probably why he had such a reduced sentence with the 4 years, because a 4-year sentence is light here. But again, if he gave them the goods that they need in order to go get more people and probably create indictments against other people, then I'm solid with that. Yes, Angie K, I agree. He flipped. Definitely agree with you on that one. Let's keep pushing on. Army Counterintelligence Command. This one is just based. The Globe and Mail, right, says China warns of foreign intelligence agencies using spy turtles to steal sensitive maritime data. The Global Mail with the little Canada leaf that's on there. Army Counterintelligence goes and says, reminder, please cut your six-pack greens. This I know it's a simple comment, but this comment right here is a testament to the attitude and confidence that our military has right now operating under President Trump. So for those of you that are like, I don't get it. You know, when they show the commercials where there's like a dolphin or a duck or some turtle, and they got the little plastic rings of the six pack get stuck on their flipper or their nose. Well, the Army counterintelligence is saying, please cut those rings. In other words, they're saying, yeah, maybe we are using some spy turtles. Anyways, I thought it was hilarious. Hopefully you guys did too. You can let me know in the comments. Israel Defense Forces eliminated Ali Muska Dadouk, a senior Hezbollah commander who has held a series of 5 senior positions within Hezbollah. Dadouk played a central role in advancing terrorist attacks and combat operations against Israel and IDF soldiers. In 2007, he orchestrated the kidnapping and murder of 5 American soldiers. So, given the fact that we know Trump is trying to orchestrate peace in the Middle East between us and Iran, and of course, what's going on with Israel and Lebanon, those being kind of the proxy countries that are thrown into the mix, this is one of those ones where this tells you Israel's not stupid. They're Mossad, the IDF, Unit 8200, they know how to play propaganda just the way Trump is doing it as well, right? They know that we've been on their asses because they're trying to disrupt this peace deal. So what do? They're like, hey, we went and did this attack against Hezbollah and we took this dude out, but just so you Americans know, he also killed 5 Americans, because they know we're going to support that and be like, yeah, turn this piece of shit into pink mist. We 100% check that box for you guys. But at the same time, we got to remember, what is the greater good here? The greater good here is that we secure that peace deal and we don't continue with these ongoing conflicts, which is what we know the deep state wants. So just this is a good one, because this is a POS that was taken out. But just understand that they probably took out this POS because they knew it was one that we would get behind and kind of get rid of the public indictment that they've been facing hardcore. We're going to get into that show later. That when we get into Israel surrender or fail, I don't care whether you're pro-Israel or not, you're going to walk away with like, damn, I see what Alpha is saying. Like, Israel is either going to concede to Trump or they are going to cease to exist. Like, that is the direction we're going. And Trump knows it, but I'm not going to get ahead of us. That's later in the show. BRICS News puts just in, President Trump privately told associates Venezuela could become the 51st state. I mean, we'll see. Is it Cuba? Is it Greenland? Is it, which province of Canada? We will see. But, is Trump trolling? I don't think he makes it a 51st state. Maybe he does, like what he did with Puerto Rico, or maybe, I don't know. But here's the thing. I think this is still part of the leak operations. Because coming from BRICS News, BRICS News, whether you guys like it or you don't, they're not just going to go out and put, just straight National Enquirer type stuff. It's usually there's some legitimacy that came behind it. So again, just keep your eyes on that. And then our last one, we'll get into the themes tonight. President Trump says the new Air Force One will lead a historic flyover above Washington, D.C. on the 4th of July. This will be a flyover on July 4th. I think I can say to the likes of which we'll never seen before. Now, I'm going to play this clip. I want you guys to listen to what he says. We're going to talk about Air Force One a little bit later in the show, but I want to see if you guys pick up what I think I heard in his speech right here. So let me hit play, and then you guys tell me what you think.
Generals, they wanted to do something special. They wanted to get it done for the 250th year, the anniversary. We have America's 250th, and that's coming up in a little while, and I think I can say that we're going to do a flyover like no flyover. This is going to lead a group of many, many planes. I do love the F-22, I have to tell. Does anybody like the F-22? I love the F-22. I say, why aren't you putting F-22s? They're putting F-22s. They're going to have the 35s. They're going to have the 60s. They're going to have everything. But this will be a flyover on July 4th. I think I can say the likes of which we've never seen before, General, right? Spending a couple of bucks extra for a little fuel. We own the plane, so all we need is a little extra fuel, right? And we have every pilot wants to do it. Those pilots are all fighting to do it. So we're going to have a lot of planes flying over the Capitol and over the White House.
Listen, you just never know with Trump. I saw someone in the chat, B28 technically, is it an it isn't Air Force One unless he's in it. I hear you. And I actually do think that the new Air Force One will be definitely one of the showpieces in there. And I think they'll probably even show it doing a maneuver, not just maybe a regular flyover. I don't know. We'll see. But when he makes the comments, to the likes that we've never seen, we're going to have a lot of planes in the sky. Is Trump trying to thwart some type of attack that maybe the deep state had planned for DC? And is that why he's saying it? Is this a way of letting your enemies know, we know your plan, we'll be in the position to shut it down without creating panic amongst the populace, right? I don't know. Like I said, this part's pure speculation here, but there's just something about the way he spoke there that just seems to be more than just something that is going to be, 4th of July moto. And maybe it is. Maybe it is. It's just, I seem to have picked up on some of his frequencies when he speaks. And I do pick up something here that registers. I just can't figure it out what it is. So hopefully one of you picked up something or maybe felt something and you'll share it down in the comments and help me. So let's get into the themes tonight. Let's start off with Odie and I. What? Odie and I. Who? This is going to be ongoing because we're not even done with the Odie and I stuff, and you guys will appreciate this. June 18th, Tulsi Gabbard puts, I just walked out of Odie and I Gov headquarters for the last time. Thank you, President Trump. I remain grateful for the profound honor of serving the American people and our nation as the Director of National Intelligence. DNI Gabbard out. Now, for those of you that have done operations or been on a tactical team, that DNI Gabbard out. What's up? Come on. She's queuing us up on something right there, right, Keck? But again, I think maybe on the way out for the last time as the DNI, but I don't think that is going to be her last time in that building. So who is the one that's meant to be her immediate replacement? Well, that would be Pulte, right? We've talked about him on the last show and a bunch of other shows. And it says right here, Gateway Pundit reports Pulte to begin mass firings on day one as acting DNI. And as soon as he showed up, he showed up a day early. And when he shows up, he says, I want a roll call sheet of everybody that works in the office of the Director of National Intelligence. I want a roll call sheet. And so as soon as the word got out with that, they were like, we know Trump sent him on here in a mission to cut our employee size. And now he's asking for a roll call sheet. So I guess they're not playing. So let's keep going. So then Trump puts out this bad boy. And let me see if I can open this up a little bit bigger. Make it easier to read. Let's see if that helps you guys. Nope, not going to work that way. Let's try just making it. Yeah, that's as big as I'm going to get it, folks. Sorry. Listen to this. This is very important. And we've talked about this before, but I know not all of you have. And I think this is one of the most important pieces of text when it comes to the Director of National Intelligence saga of what's going on. The Republicans agreed with Democrats to remove very fair and talented William Pulte from serving as acting DNI in return for getting FISA approved from the Democrats. I'm just going to say Democrats because it's easier to say than Democrats, but I get it. I think they're Democrats too. So real quick, Republicans say, make a deal. Okay, we're not going to advance Pulte, but you guys are going to give us FISA. However, the Republican moves so fast with the hearings. Now, when do they ever move fast? So does this sound like they got had, or does this sound like an establishment? I'll let you be the judge. However, the Republicans moved so fast with the hearings of the great Jay Clayton, current U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, that Pulte would be gone before the Democrats would vote on FISA. Now, the Democrats are saying that they will vote against FISA. So the Republicans would wound up having fulfilled their commitment, but the Democrats broke the deal. In addition, the newly nominated U.S. Attorney, Jamie McDonald, must be confirmed and blue slip. Because of the ridiculous views of the Republicans on blue slipping, Democrats are often willing to nix it. I may not be able to get the extraordinary Sullivan and Cromwell partner Jamie approved, and I don't want to take Jake Clayton away from the great job he is doing until Jamie is in place. You see what's going on here? I know you guys do. Therefore, to add a slight bit of intrigue, but for the good of the nation and the people of our country, I will not approve FISA without the Save America Act going along with it. Not complicated. Actually, the Republicans fell into a trap, and I agree with him. Regarding the approval of our great patriot, Jake Clayton, we are canceling the Senate hearing regarding D&I today and will not be going forward until Jamie McDonald is approved by the U.S. Attorney. In the meantime, Bill Pulte will remain as the acting director of national intelligence. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So just real quick summary of this in case I lost some of you guys. The Democrats, Republicans, both of them didn't want Pulte. Let's just be honest. Obviously, the Democrats were leading that fight, but both sides didn't want him. They're pushing. They were demanding that Trump. They even said he's not going to get approved. And this is why we started doing the numbers of 210 days, which means that if Pulte was in there and if he wasn't confirmed, it'd be like the last week or two of January of 2027. And then Trump would have to be making a new move. And that's a different conversation. But we knew we had those 210 days. So they come to this deal, say, hey, Trump isn't going to roll with Pulte, but you guys are going to give us FISA. They make it sound like that's going to be the case. Then they start, because the Republicans move really, really fast with Jake Clayton. Thune, remember we talked about this on one of the last shows where Thune's like, oh, we can get this done really fast. Like he knew, which is what tells me the Republicans didn't get suckered here. They were a part of this plan. This was the establishment trying to work Trump. And this letter right here is Trump telling them, all you guys, I see what you're trying to do, and this is how it's going to roll now. You're going to give me Save America Act with FISA, and he knows they're not. So he's pushing them into situations he knows they're not going to fold on because he's creating this chaos within the ranks. But he's also going to make sure that, hey, if I'm going with Jay, you're going to give me the appropriate replacement, which I want, Jamie or Jaime, whatever you want to call him, to be in that position. So the easiest takeaway here is they didn't hoodwink Trump. Everybody says that Trump doesn't know what's going on, that they're fooling him, that he's getting bad advice. This right here, this single post from Trump right here tells you that he knows the game way better than all these pieces of shit and that they're done. He's him going along with it. That phase is behind us if you guys haven't picked up on that yet. This is Trump completely dictating. I'm in control. I'm the boss. I'm the big dog, and we're going to do it the way I want now. And these people are panicking. So just in case that wasn't enough, this is from today. June 22nd, Insider Paper reports breaking firings are now underway at the Office of Director of National Intelligence. People within the DNI's office today were getting their pink slips and saying, sorry, not sorry, go to the unemployment line or go find another job. So Trump's letting them know, I sent this guy in there to wreck the boat, and he's wrecking the boat, and he's going to continue to wreck the boat. So all you POSs better get on my program, which is the last letter we just read. This was Trump putting it into motion to say, this is not just talking, I'm the boss. So again, fired up with that one. Let's shift into the Candace Owens one a little bit. It's been a while since we've talked about her. And some of you guys are like, you kind of forgot about Candace Owens. No, I get just as tired of talking about her as you guys, but this one was just too good to pass up. And I didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, so I wanted to make sure we covered it this week. Candace Owens says, via FOIA, we formally requested Kash Patel's travel itinerary for the 3 days leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination. And we just heard back and we're told that the burden of the request is too great. How is this even remotely legal? Again, this is her doing wordplay. Why? To create insinuations. So, the FBI rapid response, because we know all these units have rapid responses now, then comes and hits her up in the comments and says, Dear Candace, please show us on the document sent to you acknowledging your FOIA request where we said that. And when you read the document, they didn't say that. So I'll bring it up right here so you guys can see. Essentially, it says there's a need to search for and collect from the field offices and or offices are separate from the FBI. So it just goes pretty much and breaks down, hey, we're not rejecting it. We're just telling you that we're going to need more time because what you're asking for is such a large scope of information. We're not going to be able to get that done in the regular amount of time. That's literally what this says. And then at the tail end of it, it says, if you want to narrow your scope to things that are more specific, we can address that stuff probably a little bit quicker. It's a very reasonable letter, right? Now, when you read what she put, it sounds like, oh, they're trying to dodge it. They're trying to protect Cash. Oh, Cash must be involved somehow with Charlie Kirk's assassination. How do we know that? Because that's exactly what all the ass clowns that follow her started to post. So FBI calls her out. I love these rapid responses that are calling them out when they do this. And so what does Candace do? She panics because she's not used to this. And she responds to them. Says, do you have nothing better to do than to be nitpicking little bitch in front of the world? Wow. Are you not embarrassed that other countries can read this account? When we said denied, we meant denied the mandated 20-day turnaround for a FOIA response. Did you guys see that in her post? I didn't. We were, in fact, denied that citing unusual circumstances, because they are. Which is why we included a link to the full episode where we showed on what 3 grounds that denial was made, plus suggesting adjustments from your office. Do you have a better way to spend our tax dollars than behaving like this boomer who doesn't understand that X is meant to be pithy? Is clickbait a legitimate Department of Justice concern? Who is running this account? Can we FOIA that? So again, she got called out. He got caught. And now she again is trying. This woman is the most narcissistic piece of shit that I have seen on any social media. I don't think there's anybody worse than her. Like, she is the worst. When you track everything she's done, to all Erica Kirk has to do is tell me to stop, and I'll stop. Erica Kirk tells her to stop. She says, well, stop what? She wasn't clarified. Erica Kirk comes out and clarifies, stop doing this, everything that you're doing. And then still that's not enough. And then she says, it starts trashing on Erica and the type of mom she is. Like, this woman is vile. And those of you that are still behind her, at this point, I question your judgment. I'm just going to say, I love you, but you're a little bit retarded. When I say a little bit, I really mean a lot. But you get what I'm saying. Stick around. Let's shift gears now. Paul Sperry puts, breaking records reveal anonymous whistleblower Robert Meinhardt told FBI agents ex-Hell Intel members Eric Swalwell played a role in the leak. Who's been telling you guys about leak operations? Of a secret CIA doc regarding Russiagate, noting the California Democrat previously had been warned to be careful because he had a reputation for leaking classified information. So again, remember, Chinese spy, dude's already bad. Guy's got a rep for leaking information. And now this comes out. Well, why do we even care about Swalwell anymore, Alpha? I'm getting there. Eric Swalwell. This post is from June 4th of 2018, folks. Listen to what I'm going to read to you here. It's closing time. Joined Gavin Newsom in the final hours of campaign on his tour across California. Gavin will bring new energy and ideas to Sacramento for California to lift families. So he joins Newsom's campaign to go and help him, right? Now, to what extent? Don't know. But using his words, he jumps onto the final hours of the campaign to be a part of Newsom, and he knows enough about Newsom to kind of make the comment that he did. So, that being said, let's shift gears here a little bit to Newsom. I got a video for you guys here, I believe, to play for you. So let me hit play, and then we'll read this.
Jennifer Siebel Newsom, the wife of California's governor and potential 2028 presidential contender, Gavin Newsom, is currently under federal investigation for possible tax crimes. The full scope of the investigation into the first partner is unclear. The documentary filmmaker founded Representation Project, a nonprofit focused on gender equity in media.
I love championing and focusing on uplifting and supporting women and girls.
She also owns a film production company called Girls Club Entertainment, which is listed as a contractor on the Representation Project's tax returns. And she co-founded the California Partners Project, a nonprofit that works to get more women onto corporate boards, address the gender pay gap, and make tech safer for children. Critics have raised the possibility of self-dealing for years, despite no public evidence of wrongdoing. While it is unclear what exactly investigators are focused on, they have recently interviewed potential witnesses, including people close to the first couple. Sources tell CNN that the governor is not directly under investigation, but he has framed the probe as politically motivated and targeting him.
Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president.
The tax probe is not the only recent investigation into someone in Newsom's orbit. His former chief of staff, Dana Williamson, was recently prosecuted related to corruption. She pleaded guilty to 3 charges earlier this year. President Trump has made it clear he wants his Justice Department to pursue his political enemies. Just last year, he called for Newsom to be arrested and has attacked him repeatedly.
He's ruined California, gives health care to anybody.
CNN has learned the current investigation was launched last year by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Sacramento based on a whistleblower report. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche declined to answer questions Monday on Capitol Hill.
General Blanche, can you confirm if this Justice Department is investigating Gavin Newsom and if the president directed you to do this?
If we know that Eric Swalwell was in hot water, and we know that at least politically, going all the way back to 2018, when he says that he got onto the campaign for the final hours of Newsom, and we know the corruption that surrounds Newsom, you think Swalwell wasn't a part of that corruption? Of course he was. You think Swalwell is saying, you guys all burned me. You guys all flipped on me. None of you were there to try to help me as Trump's DOJ came after me. So you know what? Fork you, and fork you. I'm taking you guys all down with me. That's absolutely going down right now. And this is how they get tipped off to the wives. Officer Lou puts out new, a source familiar with the matter confirms to townhall.com that multiple investigations into Gavin Newsom have been quietly underway for nearly a year. They originated from California whistleblowers, not the DOJ. You even had CNN in that clip acknowledge that. This wasn't Trump's DOJ. This was California's DOJ. Under Biden? Make that make sense. Well, maybe Biden made some deals too. We're going to find out. Topics include his wife's taxes and his chief of staff per the source. And right here, JT put out a great little schematic here. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Gavin Newsom, crime family, NGOs, dark money, corrupt Newsoms. And right here, you got the Representation Project, which is a nonprofit. That money coming from his wife, Jennifer. That goes into $1.6 million going into the Girls Club Entertainment, which is a for-profit company. And then again, the founder of that, Newsom's wife. So the profits are going to go to her. You got Newsom down here, $128 billion in the state funding to California schools. And that's the way they got that into the Representation Project. So you kind of see how this funnels into the NGOs, and the NGOs kind of use we're going to send it here, we're going to send it there, but it still gets into the for-profit companies. It comes right back into them. And they're not the only ones that operate this way. And who do you think snitched them out? Let's keep going. Gavin Newsom steered millions of dollars of other people's money to nonprofits connected to his wife as federal investigation continues. And of course, you have Gavin Newsom's campaign employee that already pled guilty. And again, I don't think it's crazy speculation when we say she's the one that's dropping dimes. And then that's probably getting, because you always want two. You know, if you want to get the conviction, you want to have two, that you're going to have that information corroborated by someone else. And I think that other person that's helping to corroborate this stuff is Swalwell, which means Shifty Schiff and all of them are probably next. So with that, let's get into Fauci. Fauci is, I'm going to save it because somebody put out a phenomenal post today. And this is from the 18th. So 4 days ago. Today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never before seen communications and documents exposing how Dr. Fauci provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab, worked with politicized elements with the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions and hide the virus lab leak origins, and lied to Congress while under oath in 2024. It's time you know the truth. There's going to be a follow-up video to this. There's a couple of situations in here that we're going to talk about that kind of spreads this out so we understand. But this is the first one. This one's about 5 minutes just to bring everybody up to speed how Tulsi initiated this just a few days ago, and then we'll bring it into today.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when under oath he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community whistleblowers who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community's manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins, once again revealing a clear pattern of suppressing dissent, silencing critics, and burying the truth. Dr. Fauci's close relationships with the intelligence community enabled him to assume three key roles that shield him from scrutiny. First, Dr. Fauci funded dangerous gain-of-function coronavirus research linked to Big Pharma and their pursuit of universal vaccines worth trillions of dollars. Second, Dr. Fauci was the behind-the-scenes advisor who, alongside his hand-picked so-called experts, pushed the intelligence community to endorse a natural animal origin to hide his dangerous gain-of-function research that he funded using taxpayer dollars, all of this in a deliberate attempt to cover up the truth and shift the blame and attention away from Fauci's own actions. Third, Dr. Fauci became the nation's pandemic pundit, and he publicly pushed lies, disinformation, and censorship using every platform available. Now, according to hundreds of reviewed emails, which are included in this release, the intelligence community almost always incorporated Fauci's recommendations. He promoted a fraudulent paper whose publication he helped prompt as legitimate information for intelligence community consideration. Senior analysts praised Dr. Fauci not as a policymaker, but as what they called an unbiased guide to the real coronavirus experts, while deliberately ignoring experts who might dissent from Fauci's narratives. Now, Fauci didn't stop there. He blatantly lied to Congress under oath during his 2024 testimony to the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, denying that he ever spoke to any intelligence agency about COVID. Now, the correspondence I'm releasing today directly contradicts his sworn testimony. Now, we received statements from multiple whistleblowers revealing that the intelligence analysts who dared to challenge Dr. Fauci's COVID origin conclusions faced threats of retaliation, marginalization, and many suffered career setbacks. For example, a contractor was terminated just days after coming forward to ODNI as a whistleblower. Another example, those who advocated for the lab leak hypothesis or expressed dissenting views were reminded by their managers that leadership would determine which analysts would be promoted and which would not. The message was clear: go along or be punished. Senior leaders also sought to undermine whistleblowers by removing anonymity, which is required in the whistleblower process, as they made their complaints, and also insisting that their managers or attorneys be present during ODNI meetings where these whistleblowers were coming forward with their testimony, obviously creating an atmosphere of intimidation. The COVID pandemic caused tremendous hardship and pain for millions of our fellow Americans and countless people around the world. Now, after years of lies and censorship and cover-ups, the American people deserve transparency, truth, and accountability. The tactics that were used to hide the truth are straight from the deep state playbook. Politicized self-serving leaders like Dr. Fauci covered up their own wrongdoing and abuses of power, manipulated intelligence, lied to Congress, and undermined a duly elected president by restricting his access to the vital facts he needed to keep the country safe. It's time you know the truth.
There's a lot of important things that were said there, but I want to highlight two. The first one is they kept information from President Trump that he needed to protect the country. This is, I would argue, the most important statement she made there. Because this, for everybody that was screaming at Trump over the last couple of years, he needs to come out and apologize for warp speed and this and this. And what did myself and a few others say? That would be absolute suicide. Trump's not a doctor. He hired the two that were considered to be the best in the world, Fauci and Deborah Birx. Had he not gone with the information they suggested and all these, because people were going to die, because we know that's what the deep state did. There were going to be deaths. Those deaths were going to be blamed on Trump, saying he's not a doctor. Why isn't he going along with what Fauci and Deborah Birx are saying, right? This you don't think Pence wanted it to go down this way because he was the boss on this one, right? So by her coming out and saying that this information was kept from Trump, what we're going to hear, folks, which is going to lead me into the next most important point, what we're going to hear here is that had Trump been given information, Trump would have addressed it differently. Whether it would have been the ivermectin hydroxychloroquine, or the other one, the other word, it evades me right now. You guys know what I'm talking about. Florida was doing it. I can't think of the remedy that they had. Somebody in the chat will say it. But maybe he would have took those pathways. Maybe he would have said, no, these vaccines aren't considered safe. I'm still looking for someone to see if they drop that, because it's going to bug me if we don't hear it. I want to say mitochondria, but it's not mitochondria. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's going to drive me nuts. Come on, somebody. I'm phoning a friend here. The monoclonals. Yeah, the antibodies. Kyle, we did it together. The monoclonal antibodies, maybe he would have pursued that route. The point being, though, is he would have went a different direction. Now, why is that important? This gets into the second important point, folks. And I don't understand why people aren't really talking about this. Yes, perjury is important, right? That he's going to look at serious time. Yes, the covering up stuff was important. But folks, are we going to forget that babies were dying from the remdesivir? That the protocols were killing old people with the ventilators, or people that comorbidities? What we're talking about here, folks, is murder. We're talking about conspiracy to cover up information that otherwise people would have known. This is going to lead to a death. What we're talking about here is charges of mass murder. Now, right under that is great bodily injury. And there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people that are vax injured. This is where all this leads to. Maybe I'm just ahead of that conversation, but I'm telling you, folks, these conversations are going to lead to, yes, Sherry Angela 60 in the chat over there in Rumble says crimes against humanity. Yes, we're talking murder. That's where this is going. Let's keep going. The Office of National Intelligence thought what she said was pretty important. They said lies, disinformation, censorship. That was Fauci's playbook. That's the other thing she used. This was the tactics of the deep state. So if she's saying that was the tactics of the deep state, in order to classify it as tactics means that she was able to identify it in other investigations, and that's how she knows that this is a tactic of the deep state. What does that tell us? Not one RICO, but at least two, if not three, I would argue more. But we're talking realistically at least 3 different RICO cases that Tulsi's aware of. And that's how she's able to identify these as tactics. instead of just a modus operandi for this specific type of RICO case. On her final day as DNI, Tulsi Gabbard is executing POTUS's priorities and taking on the deep state, delivering Holly Mo's COVID Origins Act of 2023 and exposing the truth to the American people were denied under the previous administration. We get into Rand Paul. I'm not a big fan of him, but he's putting out some quality information with regards to Fauci. We know Dr. Fauci had deep ties to the intelligence community that predate the COVID pandemic. Think about what that means. Think about what that means, what I just talked about. When the question of whether this virus came from a lab first arose, one man was positioned to shape the answer across science, intelligence, and public opinion. He steered the narrative away from the lab leak theory because he knew the NIH was funding gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. We're talking about cover-up that led to mass global homicides. This dude, I'm not going to get ahead of it because the post is coming. I want to say it so bad, but you see Fauci in the middle right there at the top, National Institute of Health, and then to the left, the public narrative, to the lower left, Wuhan lab, to the lower right, the scientific journals, and to the right, the intelligence community. And this is going to spread more because each one of those branches off, big tech, social media, the workplace, everything, every single one of us was affected by this in some capacity. How many of us? I was shut down off of the social media platform that plays videos with the red logo. I'm not going to say their name because I'm trying to establish a relationship with them. But them and the old Bluebird platform took me down at the same time. And what was it for? Because I was doing an interview with Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, an expert, a recognized expert in her field. And they shut down the stream midway for misinformation. And now we know that that was actually factual information. That's information that if people in my audience would have heard, it could have gave them what they needed to make a more a more informed decision to decide, hey, maybe I should take this or maybe I didn't. And because multiply me, I'm not the only one. This happened by the tens of thousands of alt media podcasters out there. Imagine all the people that could have heard information that would have made them said, you know what, I'm going to pass on this. I'm not going to try this. And they didn't hear it. So they went, they took it and either died or were vax injured. All originated right here with the guy you see in the center. Now I say that with an asterisk because the guy in the center is going to sing like a motherfucking bird. And he's going to say, hey, they made me the hero. They promised me this. I got the books. I got the money, but I ain't the one that called the shots. This is who called the shots. That's what this dude's going to do. I at some point, this DOJ has to take Fauci into physical custody. And I hate to say this because some of you are going to be like, hell no. They need to take him into physical custody to make sure he stays alive. Because once the deep state realizes, and they probably already do, they're probably already put something into motion. They don't want this dude alive. They are not. The DOJ needs to take this guy into custody to make sure he is alive, to tell the American people exactly what happened, the truth of what happened, and bring the whole damn deep state down with him. Because this guy is one of the key factors to taking people down for homicide, for murder. Karma puts out, Senator Ron Johnson, there's a total media blackout on the new COVID vax child death count study. 24%. God, this breaks my heart. Almost a quarter of 39,000 victims died the same day or within 48 hours. This one just hurts. Let's take a listen.
Without folks like you on Capitol Hill, we would just be in the dark all the time. Tell me about this report and how concerning it is to you, because if it's 10, what's the real number?
Yeah, my main concern is it dramatically understates the problem here. You know, in any of these analyses, you're going to have doctors doing the analysis. And by the way, it's very difficult to get autopsies during the pandemic. Medical professionals didn't want to know. So there are very few autopsies. So the NIH or CDC, FDA reviewed 96 autopsies of children and came up with about 10 they thought were possible or probable. Now, from my standpoint, when you look at the data, it was safety signals were screaming at you. Best way to describe this is currently on VAERS, you have almost 1.7 million total adverse events. You have 39,000 deaths. These are worldwide figures. Of the 39,000 deaths, 24% occurred on the day of vaccination or within 1 or 2 days. So the FDA officials always say, well, yeah, but VAERS doesn't prove causation, and that's true. But again, if you were perfectly healthy and you went and got a jab and you died that day or within 1 or 2 days, I know what I would be blaming. Now, there may be cases where people were in bad health anyway, and that just tipped them over, and really the cause of death was something else. But the bigger revelation, Steve, was what we unveiled 3 weeks ago, which is still not being covered by the mainstream media. And that is that on March 1st of 2021, Peter Marks, the head of CBER, the division within FDA that approves vaccines and then surveils the safety of them after approval, was briefed that their algorithm that analyzed the VAERS safety system was going to hide and mask safety signals. 26 days later, he had a data run on a new algorithm that unmasked. They had 49 cases of extreme masking revealed, 25 safety signals, including sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, Bell's palsy, different types of strokes. Next 3 months, they got similar type of data runs with the new algorithm, showing more safety signals, more different types of sudden death. They didn't pin a badge on Dr. Anna Scharsman, who's the data mining expert that showed them this. They shunned her off to the side. They ordered her to cease and desist, and they decided to use the algorithm that they knew that they were warned was going to hide safety signals, and they're clinging to that to this day. Peter Marks has gone off to work for Eli Lilly, and the entire world is in the state of denial, basically. The COVID cartel remains as powerful as it always was. I cannot get the story broadcast. I cannot get an interview on CBS, ABC, NBC, PBS, MS Now, CNN. I challenged Jake Tapper. I was on a show, want to talk about something else. I said, Jake, I really want to talk about this. I'm going to send you the report. Read it. Have me on. Haven't been invited back yet.
You know, if my Marine Corps math is mathing, 25% of nearly 40,000 is what, just under 10,000? 10,000 kids. And we know that number is far greater than that when you expand it out. I know all of you know of a tragic story when it comes to this. But when it's the babies, that's just a level of evil that just can't have a soul. Remdesivir to newborns, folks. And Fauci knew exactly. He had prior experience with remdesivir from HIV. I believe it was HIV. Somebody can fact check me in the chat. Been a while since I talked about that. But he had previous experience from that. He knew how that worked and didn't work. And this is what they are giving to the most delicate lives. Absolutely wild. We're not done with Fauci. Let's keep going. Randy Quaid. You guys remember Randy Quaid, Independence Day? He says, Fauci is fucked. That's what I've been wanting to say for quite some time. And I agree with Randy Quaid 100% on this one. He posted that on the 19th. Let's keep going. Ripcord puts difficult truths. Tulsi Gabbard drops declassified documents on Fauci and the COVID pandemic on her final day as DNI, June 18th, 2026. Q Post 4481, dated June 18th, 2020, a 6-year delta from the date of this post. Only when evil is forced into the light can we defeat it. Only when they can no longer operate in the shadows can people see the truths for themselves. Only when the people see the truth for themselves, will people understand the true nature of their deception? Difficult truths. I know some people wanted this information to come out a long time ago, and I understand. And if it would have came out a long time ago, would it have saved more lives? It would have. But we are in a war. And this information had to be delivered at a time when it was going to have the greatest impact in that war to save more lives than it would have maybe in that moment of how we look at things. And I know that is difficult for people to grasp. And that's why it takes very special types of people to make that decision. It's why I have so much respect for our president, because I don't know if I could have made the same decisions that he has had to make, but he has made them. And I don't think we ever truly find out every detail of Operation Warp Speed, just because of the way it could be, the context can be taken out of, where things can be taken out of context and then all of a sudden implied some type of responsibility in those decisions. So I'm trying to navigate my words very carefully there. But nonetheless, this is getting forced into the light. So Ripcord absolutely nailed it with this post, and it's a 6-year delta. August the 17th, another great anon that's out there says, boom, it's time. Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, Tim Burchett. We're going to revisit this one later on in the show too. Sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them. It's time to wake up. It's time to end the horror show. It's time to stand, lead by example. And right here, the Tulsi Gabbard post, you have, it's time, you know the truth. And then you get up here on Pete Hegseth, if you can see my little arrow, top center, it's time. And then over here, you got Tim Burchett. It's time with the Barry that's in here. Now, are you guys thinking right here, Barry as in Barry Sotero? Or are you guys thinking BlackBerry as in the BlackBerry phones? What is the signal on this one? I'm thinking it's the Blackberries. And we know that those Blackberries were one of the covert ways of them talking because of some of the encryptions that were on there. Then again, both of those get tied into post 4250. Right here, it's time. And again, we're going to talk about this again later on the show, but it did have some context to what we're talking about here. But I do want to know your guys' thoughts on that Blackberry that's right there. Coming back to Ripcord, he says, thank you for your service once again, Tulsi. Of course, the nation hinges on the work you completed in a very short time. Patriots in trusted positions. And if you guys didn't know, Tulsi is still in the military. She has not retired from that position. And right here, November 18th of 2022, post 4963, Patriots in trusted positions. And if you've been watching DEFCON or Q After Hours, we have tapped into Tulsi Gabbard and her position within the Army and how that related to her position within the ODNI. And we got some clarification on some payroll stuff that just kind of solidified what we're thinking right here. Military is the only way. And again, she was still in the military while she was ODNI. I do see some people in the chat saying BlackBerry phones were the best. For good people, yes. For bad people, they caused a lot of harm. Then we bring it into General Flynn. Arrest Anthony Fauci. There's a little call to action on this one that comes from Doc Long, so just stick with me on here. If you believe you should get involved, and you should, please repost this. I'm tired of waiting for someone to hold Fauci accountable. We, the people, can all file a complaint against his license. It's fast, it's free, and all complaints must be investigated. Please read this short missive below, and please consider reposting. Thank you. And then I'm going to click on this one because I don't think I have it on the next slide. Yeah, so I'm going to come back to this. So let me click this one. And Dr. Long, we've had her on the show on SITREP before, also on my show as well. But she puts, I made a promise to the first soldier of mine who died from COVID vaccine. Anthony Fauci holds an active medical license in Maryland, license number D0004034. Here is a link to file a complaint against the medical license of a doctor in Maryland. I am now going to copy that link and drop it in both the chats for you guys, so you both will have it. So you guys over there on Rumble have it, and you guys over there on YouTube now have it. Maryland Medical Practice Act, Health Occupations Article Title 14, which lists grounds for disciplinary action, including immoral conduct and unprofessional conduct in the practice of medicine. Key statutory grounds. And this comes from Health Occupations 14-404. Disciplinary panel may reprimand, probate, suspend, or revoke a license if a physician is guilty of immoral conduct or unprofessional conduct in the practice of medicine, is professionally, physically, or mentally incompetent, engages in other prohibited acts, e.g. fraud, patient abandonment, substance abuse, overutilization, false reports, etc. Unprofessional conduct is evaluated on a case-by-case basis by the disciplinary panel. It is not rigidly defined in a statute, but includes failures to meet standards of care, ethical violations, or behavior that harms patients or the profession. Did the medical recommendations and guidance given by Dr. Fauci, acting in his official capacity as the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, NIAID, break your trust in the profession of medicine, public health, the safety of vaccines? Were you or your loved one harmed by SARS-CoV-2 gain-of-function bioweapon? Were you or your loved ones harmed by COVID vaccine bioweapon? Did the health of you or your loved ones suffer because of professional medical opinions and guidance given by a medical professional acting in his or her official professional medical capacity? Did your business close because of a fabricated medical advice like 6 feet safe and masking? Did your grandparents or parents die alone in a hospital because of the deadly remdesivir protocol and or social distancing? Did your mental health suffer from social isolation and stress? Did your children struggle with depression, anxiety, and suicide ideation secondary to the medical recommendations, social distancing, masks, school by Zoom, etc., because of the expert medical opinions and guidance of a man acting in his official capacity for NIH? Do you think it is professional for a medical doctor to use their position and taxpayer money to fund the development of a more lethal, more transmissible virus? Do you think it's professional to lie to Congress? Do you think it is professional for a doctor to lie to the President of the United States about public health issues and measures? Do you think it is professional for a doctor to spread lies about a vaccine's safety and efficiency that directly results in substantial harm to the health and readiness of our entire armed forces? Actions have consequences, and incompetent, corrupt leaders are deadly. My last conversation with the first soldier that died from the vax, he said, "I know the vaccine did this to me. I felt that poison go through my body. I was about to retire, and they took everything from me and my family. Make sure that they are held accountable for what they did to me. Please make sure my wife is taken care of." I've had conversations most in the military can't imagine. When leaders do things that kill my men and women, I take it personally. These men and women did not take an oath to be Fauci's lab rats. Why does any doctor involved in this global deception still have a medical license? Ladies and gentlemen, if your opinion is yes to any or all of those things, again, that link is in the chat. I will pin it. Let me see, where did it go? If I don't find it, there it is. It will be, give me 1 second. It will be pinned in both chats because it's that important. Give me 1 second. Okay, so it's pinned on Rumble. Bear with me 1 second because I want to make sure I pinned it over there on YouTube as well, to make sure everybody can find it. There we go. So both of them are pinned. My apologies for that little bit of a delay. Folks, you can do something. If you feel that the criteria that Doc Long laid out there applies to you or your family, I beg and I implore you, click the link. Every one of those things that I read, I can tell you a story of a fan, a family member, a friend. When I first started this podcast, I shared this with my family. And I remember even sharing this with Dr. Judy Mikovits. This was at the height of it. You know, for those of you that don't know, and, you know, recently, maybe in the last couple months or last year that joined my podcast, there was 3 reasons that I started this podcast. One was I wanted to be a voice for the J6ers. I was like, nobody wants to tell the truth for us. So that was mission statement number 1. Mission statement number 2 was, I'm going to talk about elections since everybody else is afraid to talk about it because they don't want to lose their platforms. And then mission 3 was, I want to make sure people know the truth about COVID. Those were my 3 mission statements. That's what got this podcast up and going. And as I started to bring on doctors like Dr. Mikovits, Dr. McCullough, doctors, like all these doctors, you guys all know the names. I had them all on the show. And as people in my audience started to see that, the emails would flood in. My husband this, my wife this, my father this, my mom this, my child. And I am holding it together right now. You guys have no idea, because I can still feel those words that I read, email after email after email, day after day, week after week. I could hear people's anxiety and desperation in their emails. And the part that was hard for me, which was not even in comparison to the people who wrote these emails, was I knew I couldn't go to these doctors with 100 or 200 people's stories, because how many other people are getting the same types of emails as me? So to sit there and try to triage these stories when they all mattered is something that I will carry with me forever. And I remember even having this conversation with Dr. Mikovits, and I remember telling her, I don't want you to feel like I'm abusing, because we developed a friendship. And I remember I didn't want her to think that I was abusing that friendship, but that this was where I was at. These people created that. And I share that story with you to remind us, because there's so much going on in the world that sometimes we forget that we went through this. And sometimes we forget because we don't want to remember. But I want you guys to remember tonight. I want you guys to remember the anger. I want you to remember the hurt. And I want you to remember the loss, because I need that to motivate you to go to these links. Again, if these things apply, and spend the few minutes that it takes to complete them, because you're needed in this call to action. Finally, to end this section, my apologies on that one, is just, again, this is one of the things that got this podcast going, so it's important to me. Senator Rand Paul puts, last week, Anthony Fauci notified us that he will not voluntarily testify before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, even though he had previously agreed to do so. Therefore, today we have issued a subpoena for him to publicly testify. And there's him signing it. Now, what I will do, let me see how much I can zoom in on this. What I did earlier, it's hard to tell from here, but on my phone, I zoomed in on this, turned it upside down to read it, and the date that they have on subpoenaed for is July 29th. Now, could that change between now and then? Possibly. But again, just wanted to share that with you. The date that's on that letterhead that he's writing does state July 29th. So next month. 29th or 24th, it was one of those. I believe it was the 29th. So now we are going to shift gears again, and let's move into Air Force One. Dan Scavino puts out, I have been fortunate to fly around the world in this iconic plane for 5.5 years of the 35 years it has been serving U.S. presidents. Thank you, Air Force One 2900. Now, one of the things that I would like to check on this is we have a 32-second video. Looked into the post on that. Didn't really see any context on it. But if one of you wants to go and see if you can pull something up with 2900, see if there's any relevance there, report back to us. We can appreciate it. And that we'll be covering that tomorrow on DEFCON. But again, Air Force One being retired, which brings us into this. Rapid Response 47 says POTUS makes the inaugural exit from the brand new Air Force One. 55 seconds, 5x5. Let's play this. Let's hope we don't get some type of flag or nasty gram.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J.
I keep playing it because I know they're going to be like, strike. You guys have heard the song by Lee Greenwood. Fact. Here's interesting alpha fact that you guys might not be aware of. For those of you that don't know, I went and joined the Marine Corps a few days after 9/11 happened. And then shortly thereafter, I would go to the School of Infantry. And as I was at the School of Infantry in Camp Pendleton, getting ready to go to war in either Iraq or Afghanistan, it would lead me to Iraq. This Lee Greenwood song is a song that our NCOs would be playing while we're out. You guys remember when we're out on the parade deck just cleaning weapons. And so you would just hear this song and you just be right there just cleaning our rifles, looking at the beautiful Camp Pendleton base. Great memories. I was just a kid, but great memories. But again, 55 on here, 5x5. Definitely love that. But a huge plane, huge, massive plane. But I want to get into something that Trump says about it. Again, here's another one, new Air Force One. And there's just the same audio, the Lee Greenwood in the background that's playing. But I just want to give you guys another look at the windows. Yes, you guys, I've been getting the message from you guys. Oh, there's 17 windows. Yes, I know there is 17 windows, but those 17 windows when they gave it to us too. So it's not like they modified it and now it has 17. You know, when it was gifted to us, it has 17. So I'm not saying it's not important. I like it. It's just if it originally didn't have 17 and then all of a sudden we added a window or covered one up and then it was 17, I'd probably be jumping up a little bit more. We're gonna have a lot to jump up for later on the show, I promise. But right now, that's where we're at. But then we get into here, and Trump makes some statements. Nick Sorter puts, now President Trump gives a shout out to Elon Musk for outfitting the new Air Force One with Starlink. So again, listen to what he says here, but listen to how he says it, because you know when Trump speaks, he knows what he's doing.
Look, but this plane is the first successful example of a real transformation of something that was built at the highest level and now had to be changed a little bit. We have communication equipment up there that's nobody's ever seen before. It's the highest level. And including Starlink. My friend Elon is going to be very happy. But Starlink, and we have 4 or 5 different sets of double and triple communications like people haven't seen, and it represents what can happen with hard work, innovation, and aggressive timelines, because we did this quickly, and yet there's never been communication like is on this plane.
So he says, we have communication, we have comms at the highest level. Is he talking technology or is he talking security clearance? Are we talking Q clearance here? And as far as that technology, given what he signed today, we're going to get into a little bit later on the show. Communications no one's ever seen before. Are we talking AI intelligence on our comms? Are we talking Q clearance? And Nana Bear 007, I caught that too. My friend Leon, I mean Elon. You know, it's Trump. But those communications never seen at the highest security clearance. I don't know. I feel like maybe he was prepping us for the conversation with Q. But anyways, I want you guys to remember this. So just remember the dates here. This is all June 19th, because we're actually going to come back later on the show. We're going to just pop back here just to remind you of these dates, and you'll understand why. But of course, shout out to the Rubber Duck. I was in his virtual town hall, aka X Space, today, and phenomenal space. Rubber Duck just always attracts the most brilliant minds. Him and Doc were in there. The Rubber Duck puts out POTUS and JFK Jr. Relationship, plane crash 1999, Hillary Clinton Senate 2000, the start, enjoy the show. Even if you never believed a thing we said, you're going to love how this ends. Now, what does Air Force One and John F. Kennedy Jr. have to do with the new Air Force One? Well, if you saw this show a couple months ago when they first announced that they were gifting the new Air Force One to our president, you know exactly where we're going with this. This was JFK Jr.'s plane. Look at that. Look at the paint pattern. And that is the new paint job for Air Force One. Listen, folks, you are not going to convince me otherwise. You know JFK Jr. and Trump were friends. You know they were friends. And Ray Carr says, I'm watching the rerun and texting. My apologies. I'm lost in that conversation. We're live now. This ain't a rerun. They're probably not talking to me. But again, JFK Jr.'s, his plane's paint job, and then Air Force One. I don't know. Not a coincidence to me. Let's keep going. We got a lot to cover. So I told you guys that we had a video that was going to be midway to kind of adjust the gears here. So for those of you that were late to the show, we opened up the show tonight with the scene from Braveheart, right? You have to go back and watch it. I'm not going to play it again. But it's the scene where he's telling them, you know, we got to go fight. Yes, you can run and live, but, you know, in your last breaths, wouldn't you have traded it all to fight right now? Yes. Well, now this brings us into, you guys have heard me mention him over the last couple of years. He's a former KGB agent that defected from Russia, and his name is Yuri Bezmenov. And a word that you guys have probably heard me use all the time, and some of the things that brought this word into my information war understanding and assessments is Yuri Bezmenov. He's got quite a few interviews out there. I would invite you guys to go watch all of them. But this one that we're going to watch is he talks about the 4 phases. And so let me read this for you. Alaska did this post. These are all Marxist communist sympathizers brainwashed into thinking if they implement Marxism, everything will be on an equal playing field. We were all asleep at the wheel. These dregs of society were indoctrinated and were all clone troopers for their Marxist agenda to destroy capitalism and implement democratic socialism and communism. She had only clipped a part of him talking about it. It's important enough that I wanted you guys to hear the entire thing. So this is the longest video that we are going to watch tonight. It's just under 7 minutes, but it's also probably one of the most important ones, especially if you have never heard this before. But that word, again, ideological subversion or subversion, a lot of what I talk about comes from this interview. And it's a longer interview, but like I said, I'm going to play this. So, and this will kind of set us up for where we're going for the second half of the show. So I'll see you guys in a few.
% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate 1 generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black. You still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place and who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept, these are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country?
Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people, and the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. They will join the links of dissenters, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be the greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy and patriotism. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis.
So, I know that's, like I said, it's a long video. It's an important video. Again, that guy's name is Yuri Bezmenov. If I'm saying that correctly, somebody in the chat will undoubtedly correct me if I'm not, because you guys are cold-blooded like that. But I want you to think about this. Listen to how he described those stages. And if you're somebody that's been around for a minute, you'll be like, oh, I've seen that. But look at it through this perspective. Q comes in 2017. We're talking about to the boards. Obviously, if you watch the show with me and Josh, there's a lot of stuff that shows the seeding of this well in advance of that. The 2017. Well, that's right next year. We're approaching that 10-year mark. How long does he say that it takes to kind of change people's ideology? 10 to 15 years. So we're getting ready to breach that kind of first bottom tier. But the other thing that he says is that after the crisis is the normalization. You could argue that the last, 4 years of Biden, and even with the stuff we've been experiencing now to Trump's administration with what's going on, at least the way it's reported, is we've been in 6 years of crisis. And, the deep state wants to start to normalize this. Now, why is that important? Because if you listen to Yuri Bezmenov and you picture that and you look at everything that Trump has done from January, you can incorporate his first presidency, but if we're just talking Trump 2.0 from January of last year to now, he's been combating every one of those in reverse. Here's an example. You're all being discombobulated. Well, discombobulation is the opposite of allowing people to normalize. So is Trump discombobulating people because he wants to create fog of war and chaos? That may be one of the things for some targeted groups. I would argue that the reason Trump is doing discombobulation is to break up the normalization that the deep state was trying to create. I absolutely believe that is one of the main missions of the discombobulation. Because if we are discombobulated as a populace, then nothing can be normalized because everybody's like, what the fuck's going on, right? And that's kind of where we're at. So again, you can go, I'm not going to rehash everything that he said, but if you apply that concept to everything that we're going to talk about moving forward for the second half of the show, I think you're going to be like, man, this deep state they planned this to perfection. Folks, if Trump doesn't show up, if the white hats don't put operations into play, if Q never happens, whether you believe it was a psyop for the good guys, the bad guys, whether you think that it was Russian or Israeli or whatever the case, if that didn't happen, if none of this stuff happened, and of course, divine intervention always at the top of that, if none of that happens, we are done as an America. Hillary Clinton would have gone her way. We would all right now be in famine. We'd be in logistical crisis. We'd be in economic collapse through these bioweapons that they gave us. None of us would have an immune system as they unleash all this bio warfare. And we would be screaming and begging for them to give us their bioweapon jabs. This is the plan they had for us as we saw everybody start to fall out and they got their depopulation. Like that's the world we were supposed to be in. But we're not. Again, divine intervention and him anointing men to fulfill those missions for us and to lead us in the way. All right, let's move forward. I think I've made my point. Bannon's war room. Bannon, the Democrats fully intend to put President Trump in prison. It's not just Trump. Listen to this.
So whatever you guys decide tomorrow, whatever Matt and the team puts together of the action plan, whatever you are prepared to do to make sure that we have free and fair elections this November is the only thing that's going to save the House, because they are bound and determined to steal this election. They're bound and determined to steal this election. They've already hired 3 law firms, Eric Holder's managing it, to go at 3 separate law firms on 3 different angles of attack to go after President Trump, to go after President Trump's family, to go after President Trump's associates, and to bring, and not just bring impeachment, but also to send criminal referrals over to the Department of Justice, understanding DOJ won't move on them now. They'll have the criminal referrals. So if they are to win in 2028, they immediately go to the Justice Department for prosecution. The Democrats fully intend to put President Trump in prison. It hasn't stopped. They want President Trump to die in prison. They anticipate that they're going to put other leaders of the MAGA movement in prison. And they called you right there on national TV. They called you a bunch of vigilantes and said you are dangerous for American society. So if you don't think they're playing hardball, you're not paying attention to this game. It couldn't be harder, and it all comes down for all the policy debates and all the things about war in Iran and doing this and all. This is where the rubber meets the road. The Democrats understand that as long as we control the government, as long as MAGA controls the government, as long as we control the House even by one seat in the Senate, that we continue at least to push our program forward. As soon as they step in, as soon as they get anything.
I see you guys are asking for a name in the chat. Whose name are you guys looking for? Was it Yuri Bezmenov that you guys are trying to find? I'm trying to catch up in the chat without getting too sidetracked. It was Yuri Bezmenov was the man that I was talking about. So if that's who you guys are talking about, there you go. If it's not, my apologies. Hopefully someone in the chat can help you guys figure that out. But again, what did Bannon say? It wasn't going to stop at Trump. They were going to come for all of us. And here's the one thing, and I've said this from the beginning, folks. I know I am on the deep state's list. They've proven that point. You know, I am fully committed to this mission, because if we lose, what's coming is a far darker place than anybody can imagine. So we can't lose, folks, and we're not going to lose. I know that with absolute certainty, because we have the best patriots that exists. Homeland Security. American elections belong to American citizens. The only people who should be voting in federal elections are true American citizens. Mark Wayne Mullen, this dude means business. Why is that so hard for people to get behind? Why are the Democrats so against this? And why are people who are still registered Democrats, why are you okay with someone who is not American voting in this country? It just blows my mind. You know, people complain about the police and law enforcement here in America. All of you that live along the border states, like here in SoCal, we all know if you go to Tijuana, Mexicali, you got to keep extra money down in your shoe, because if you get stopped by the federales, if you get stopped by the Mexican police, you got to bribe them. Like, it's so corrupt and crooked down there. But that's okay. Yeah. Let's keep going. I don't even want to I'll get completely sidetracked on that. So again, Secretary Mullen says this. I do have this video clip for you guys. It's real short.
If we're going to actually live up to the Constitution, which is what we all swore to uphold, then one thing that is vital that we can't argue about is the only people that should be voting in federal elections are true American citizens. That is clear. And so what the president is doing and what we're wanting to do is make sure that those individuals are the only ones voting.
100% agree with them. As a matter of fact, you have Harmeet Dillon, speaking of her. How do you know? What is she talking about? You have right here in California. This is one of the guys that would definitely be targeting me. But you have Bonta. And Rob Bonta comes out and says, despite Trump's claims, there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud. These people are nuts. Listen to this guy. This is absolutely crazy.
Every count, recount, hand count, court case, and audit has shown time and time again, not just in California, but throughout this country, that there is no widespread voter fraud. It is only a figment of the imagination of Trump and others who follow that conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory? This dude is a freaking moron. Los Angeles, Skid Row. Thousands of these guys talking about they were getting paid $2, $4, $5 to vote for Bass or Top Ramen. The insanity. How can a third world nation with a population larger than California count all their votes in one day, but in California, it takes us more than a week? But that's not fraud? This dude has the look of a complete idiot. I can't wait to see these people investigated for the crimes that they've been a part of. And it's coming, folks. It is. There's a reason they're fighting so hard. Gunther puts out, boom, Trump just posted this. U.S. Attorney in California says voter fraud probe is headed straight for charges. No more games. The audit is exposing the rigged system. Trump's Truth Post says U.S. Attorney in California suspects voter fraud investigation will result in charges. S.A. Lee said his team and Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon, have been trying to audit the state for over a year under the National Voter Registration Act, the Help America Vote, and the Civil. Folks, I'm telling you, and some of you have been messaging me, you're crazy, Alpha, it's not going to happen. I'm telling you, California is not just going to go red. It is going to go hardcore red. And the people that have been at the reins, the Newsoms, the Eric Swalwells, the Rob Bontas, the Karen Bass, the Top Brahmins, all of them are going to get charged and indicted. Clip it, make fun of me later and say, Alpha, you told us, but it's never going to happen, because what's going to happen is 18 months from now, I'm going to be like, I told you. I'm telling you. Some stuff to support my position. FBI Director Cash says securing our elections is the utmost priority for this FBI. If you miss with our elections, we will fine you. Something I was just talking about here in Los Angeles. FBI agents descend on Skid Row in massive voter fraud probe after stunning claims of election bribery. I know some of you guys don't like O'Keefe, but shout out to these guys, because this was hands down extremely important. Now, my personal opinion is guys like O'Keefe and other journalists are out there, know where to investigate because they're getting little taps here and some hints on where they can find this fraud if they go and ask the right questions and talk to the right people. And that's the information that they can then report to the DOJ, and it can happen. So in other words, what I'm saying is there are covert operations that are happening, and those covert operations know that you can't legally get into the court through these covert operations that are probably in the gray area or very black area of the Constitution. So we are fighting an unrestricted warfare, or maybe some of this FISA works both ways, is getting information to the right people. That way people like O'Keefe and other journalists, Nick Sorter, or Nick Shirley, these people can then go and say, hey, I found this in my reporting, and I can give it to you, the DOJ, that you can carry on with it, because then it did get into the courts through a righteous, morally, and ethically correct pathway. Just saying, right? That's that unrestricted warfare. Seth Keschel, I need to get him on this show. He's a good guy. As a matter of fact, he has a book out there, if you guys aren't aware of it, that you should definitely support him. I'll bring him on to talk about the book, and his understanding on elections is bar none. For those of you that don't know, I got to navigate here carefully. I'm not going there. But what I'll say is we'll get him on the show, and we'll have a conversation about elections, and I'll let him express to you guys, especially coming in here into midterms, what are some of the important pathways of how we get there, and how he's come to some of the assessments and the analysis that he's done. Elevated 1188 says that has to be 80 tabs or more. It was just under 70 tabs, but I deleted some while some of the videos were going on, because there's so many tabs they fall off, and I got to bring them in. But these shows are usually somewhere between 70 and 115 tabs that are going, and that's why sometimes they get broken up into two shows. But you guys get me fired up. Like, I feel your guys' energy. This is crazy. Let's go a little woo-woo. When you guys are in the chat, and even those people that are watching on the screen, I feel your energy. The creator up there has really blessed me with the gift that sometimes I'm tired. I love what I do. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. But there's sometimes, folks, that I come and I sit here, and I'm like, I've been in the studio all day. My eyes hurt. My back hurts. My neck hurts. And I'm tired. And I know that this is going to be anywhere from 3 hours to 5 hours, and I'm exhausted. But we're in a war. I got to suck it up. You got to suck it up. And when I do this show, my creator, my God, lets me feel your guys' energy. And it gets me fired up. It gets me fired up. And somehow you guys help carry me. You guys see me yawn. You know, I try to hide it. I don't want to be disrespectful on my own damn show, but I'm tired. You know, that's, you know, for those of you that follow all the work that I do, you know, I'm up late and then I'm up early. But I'm not complaining. I'm blessed. And some of you guys have jobs a hell of a lot harder than what I'm doing. And some of you are working 2 and 3 jobs. And I've been there. And I'm not going to complain. I'm very blessed for what I get to do. But I am tired. Let's keep going. Speaking of tired, because then we won't be able to get to everything. AZ Election News says, unfortunately, Arizona Democrats are working to gather enough signatures to pass their Protect the Vote Arizona ballot initiative, which openly opposes a Republican ballot referendum that was just passed by the AZ legislator. This could, and I got all that talking and didn't even get to such one. So hold on, let's get to this news and then we'll get to what the Democrats are trying to do. So Seth Keshel says, Arizona legislator at about 2 a.m. landed the Arizona Secure Elections Act on the ballot for this fall. Good thing. It will create the Florida-style counting and address verification systems and entrench them in the state constitution. Absolutely a good thing. No more embarrassing 10 days counts and all of the distrust that comes with it, which I just finished talking about we're dealing with here in California, and no need for a gubernatorial signature. So all this, absolutely great. So that takes us into then this post. Arizona Election News puts out, unfortunately, Arizona Democrats are working to gather enough signatures to pass their Protect the Vote Arizona ballot initiative, which openly opposes the Republican ballot referendum that was just passed by the Arizona legislator. This could get very interesting. Again, Democrats that I don't get it. I mean, I get it in the part of like the illegals and the fraud. Completely understand that. It's the fraud, right? That's the corrupt system. What I don't understand is at this point, now we're not talking 2016, 2017, 2018, 2026 going into 2027. We're halfway there. How can you be a Democrat and support Democratic politicians that are trying to pass laws to make it easy to cheat, to make it easy to allow illegals to vote? I mean, come on, Californians. You guys really think we voted to raise our sales tax? Get the fuck out of here. We're getting taxed on everything. I don't know. I don't know. It blows my mind. The skiff puts Maricopa County officials deleted 2020 election results. This video clip, I hadn't seen this one. I'd seen clips that had a part of this in there before, but I had never seen this actual video. This stuff is going to blow your mind. And the way he explains it, you're just like, yeah. So I'll stop talking and hit play.
So some individual went into an application and they chose specifically to run something that would clear all records in the system that was used to generate the official results the day before an audit started.
You would think that if you were doing an audit the next day, that you would want to have the full context of the election to be audited. But that clearly was not the case in this instance.
Sorry, just to clarify, so this is a log file specifically, results tallying and reporting, which is the Dominion software. That entry says that someone went into the program and clicked on something that said, I want to purge all the results for this election. That goes through and that deletes all of the records within it, and if you actually take a look, you can see the success. It's like the second line up, that it completed successfully, and it literally deletes all of the files on the NAS directory as well, which is where all the results from the election are contained, where all the images from the election are contained, and all those other details. So some individual went into an application and they chose specifically to run something that would clear all records in the system that was used to generate the official results the day before an audit started.
Here are the 3 major findings. Okay, the first one, and this is pretty major. So 34.23% of the people that we canvassed, understand we canvassed all registered voters. We didn't just canvass the official record. We went to everyone. And 34.23% of people that we had a record of not having voted said, "What do you mean? I voted? Yes, I did." And that is one of our greatest findings. Where did these votes go? And that's why we're calling these lost votes. So if you want to when we extrapolate it, it is the equivalent of 3 Sun Devil stadiums. It was, well, 2.5 to 3 Sun Devil Stadium. So if you can imagine a Sun Devil Stadium, which holds about 70,000 people, 2.5 times that stadium is what we found just in Maricopa County, votes being lost.
Yeah. This is people that are registered voters. When you went to them and asked about whether they voted or not, they said they voted, but it was not logged in that they had voted, correct? I just want to make sure we get the terminology correct.
Why are they fighting so hard to continue hiding it?
Right.
I think we all know the answer to that.
Yep.
I bet there were 400 to 500,000 fraudulent votes in Maricopa County alone. Wow. And that would be just beyond the pale. Yep. And the same happened in other states. We know it. They know it. They know we know it, but they are fighting our ability to prove it. And unfortunately, lots of judges are helping them do that.
A whole lot there. For those of you that aren't aware, that's back from 2021, this footage that we watched there. You saw Liz Harris that was talking. We had her on the show very, very early on. EHCal says, but Alpha, there's no proof of voter fraud. Yeah, I know you're being a smart ass there, Kyle. But yeah, we had Liz Harris on the show early on. We've had Tina Peters on the show. You know, very happy to see that she's out. Her and my buddy Sean got to hang out this past week together in Vegas. Unfortunately, couldn't make it happen to go out there to be with them, but did get to communicate with them. So that was nice. And I will tell you guys this. Can't tell you yet, but one day I'm going to be able to tell you about a conversation that I had with several people that when I look back, I remember thinking, how in the world did I get here? Gonna be a great story in the future, folks. I know you guys hate it, but I want to give you a little hope of some stuff to hang on to in the future. Make sure you stick around. Speaking of sticking around, have you hit that thumb yet? Have you pushed that little heart to say you like the content? Have you subscribed because it's free? Come on. Or you can go the extra level, and if you have the means to do so and say, hey, I want to be a monthly supporter, you can do that on the different platforms, whether you're watching over there on X or YouTube or Substack or Rumble. Definitely can use the support from you guys. And just so you guys know, here's a little cool thing. We'll get right back to the show, I promise. So I got the smartwatch, right? Skynet. I have Skynet on my wrist. And every time one of you guys follows the channel or subscribes to the channel, I get this little, it vibrates and I get to see it. And it'll say, so-and-so to subscribe to your Rumble channel. And I'm talking about like the regular everyday, the free subscriptions. And the days where it's like, I'm just like, yeah, I'm all fired up. And then there's days where it's like, is this thing on? Is it working? Did I charge my watch? Where's everybody? So I just wanted to share that with you guys. But let's keep going. We got more to cover. Eric Dowry reports, holy crap, President Trump just called out leader John Thune, says any senator refusing to nuke the filibuster for the Save America Act is a stupid fool. Anybody who doesn't want to terminate the filibuster is a fool, a very stupid one at that. The Democrats will end it within minutes of taking office and then rapidly proceed to destroy our country, adding 2 radical left states, 4 Democrat senators, many congressmen, women, their dream of 21 Supreme Court justices, not just 13, an unlucky number, an impossible to beat number of electoral college votes, and that's the ballgame. Popular, vote landslides, and so much else. The Republican Party will never win another election. I will sadly be the last Republican president. Senate Majority Leader John Thune and the Republican Senate must not let this carnage happen. They will go down on the wrong side of history, as will all Republicans who just stood by and watched. The Republican Party isn't at stake. Our country is. Terminate the filibuster and immediately approve the Save America Act. God bless the USA, President Donald J. Trump. He nailed it. Listen to Trump. So here's the point, folks. When you guys see Trump talk, whether it was at the G7, whether he's in front of the White House or on the South Lawn for UFC, whatever the case, does he ever look like a president that has been told or has come to the realization that this country is going to fail, we've lost? The answer to that is no. The man operates with absolute confidence. And I can tell you, and I know some of you vets are in the chat, we've gone combat missions from people that have absolute confidence. And they know we're going into a dark spot. Probably not all of us are going to come back. And even when they deliver it with absolute confidence, you pick up on that. Damn, we're going into some bad shit right now. I've never picked up from Trump that he even remotely believes that we're going to lose. So what does that mean? Well, the Save America Act, the filibuster. He knows the deep state is not going to pass the apparatus that keeps them in place. They're not going to take that down. They're not, folks. But he's putting it out there because he needs the public indictment for something I say every show, and I know you're probably tired of hearing it. The court of public opinion, to go back to what Yuri Bezmenov said, demoralization. And what do I always say? Morale is a weapon. That has a lot to do with that ideological subversion. And what Trump's doing is he's building up that morale, and he's building up the court of the public indictment against not just Republicans, not just Democrats, but he wants us all to recognize, like what Boone said, it's not about D or R or L, liberal, Democrat, Republican. It's an establishment. And we have a president that has people in strategic positions to tackle that establishment. But he needs us to recognize it. So when he deploys the moves that he's about to deploy very soon, he has our support. Let's keep firing off. Adrian puts, add Tom Cotton to the flaming pile of that is the Senate GOP. Just in, Senator Tom Cotton says they don't have the votes for the Save America Act. Whatever the fate of the Save Act is, it's urgent that in the short term, we reauthorize FISA. These people hate us.
Country, what kind of shape is that in? I know you said it was regrettable that the Jay Clayton hearing, the new DNI candidate, was postponed yesterday by the president. You said that was a regrettable thing. Where does all that stand now, Senator?
Well, Jay Clayton is a patriot and a highly qualified nominee. It wasn't just the Senate that was working fast to confirm him. The FBI and other parts of the Trump administration worked at lightning speed over the weekend to get his background checks, his financial information in order. Ultimately, when we do confirm him, I think he'll do a great job at the DNI. In the meantime, I've spoken with Bill Pulte yesterday. He understands that there are some quick wins and important reforms at the DNI that he can undertake when he arrives there and for as long as he serves there. I do think it's really important, though, that we not connect DNI to FISA Section 702. FISA Section 702 is one of the president's most important foreign intelligence collection tools. The Democrats regrettably have blocked its reauthorization for as long as Mr. Pulte is at the DNI. I wish the Democrats would allow that reauthorization to go forward, irrespective of what they think of Jay Clayton or Bill Pulte or DNI reforms or anything else.
I know we have to go, but just in a word, do you think the SAVE Act is going to pass because the president really wants to see that? And a lot of people out there want to see that.
Well, I certainly support it, Martha, and I voted for it. I'd like to see it pass as well. The reality is, we don't have 50 votes for it right now as it's written, much less 60 votes. And also, Mike Lee, who is the sponsor of the SAVE Act, he has said he doesn't want to connect the SAVE Act to FISA because he opposes FISA. So it creates different voting coalitions in the Senate. Whatever the fate of the SAVE Act is in the long term, I think it's urgent that in the short term, we reauthorize Section 702 so the president has that vital foreign intelligence tool to keep the nation safe.
Interesting developments.
So, again, if you watch the show that we did on Q After Hours, if you watch some of the shows that I've done with CanCon on Badlands Daily, there's a pathway to the 50. There's a way to make this happen. They just don't want to, and they're not going to. And the whole point of us continually talking about this is so that you guys continually talk about They are not going to pass the Save America Act when we need it to. So this way we get that court of public opinion to support President Trump. Let's carry on. That takes us into the next one. We're almost done with this section. Elon Musk. They have imported voters to win. What is he talking about? Elizabeth Bar Kohana puts, it happened. LA City Council voted 10-5 to include giving illegals the right to vote in city charter reform referendum that will be on the November ballot. And you think that they don't have plans to cheat like they did with Spencer Pratt and Mayor Bass and Top Ramen? They absolutely do. This is the insanity. And of course, Elon called it. They have imported voters to win. And if we go all the way back to 2020, what were they doing? We had buses that were coming into Maricopa County. We had buses that were coming into different areas of Arizona and different areas of Southern California. And we saw illegals getting off. And people were going and seeing some of these illegals voting at one precinct and then voting at another precinct, signing affidavits to turn in, and they didn't want to investigate it. Now, shout out to some of the police departments here in Southern California that did. Yuma County out there did, and they actually put out press release of some of these people that they arrested. So again, when Rob Bonta says that there wasn't any election fraud, it's conspiracy, you literally have that being reported in Arizona. You have it being reported here in Southern California. Again. And then the last one right here, this one kind of motivated me. FBI Director Kash Patel, securing our elections is one of the utmost priorities for this FBI. We read that earlier. And then you have Sheriff Chad Bianco that says, we have plenty of work for you in California. And that is a hell yeah of a collaboration that I would love to see unfold. So we are at that 2.5 hour mark. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half here, and then we will do part 2 tomorrow, which is going to be about 2 hours as well. And I know some of you are like, let's just keep going. But the feedback from you guys was enough. You guys really did like the fact of having the shorter show. And to be honest, it definitely is a lot easier on me as well. So I'm going to get into the Rumble rants, and I have 2 sets of Rumble rants because I missed some from Sunday's show. And I'll talk about that if for those of you that are not aware of. So we're going to do the Rumble rants, say a prayer, and then we'll be done. Now, tomorrow's show is going to be earlier because we have DEF CON at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow it is going to be 5 o'clock my time. So that is 8 o'clock East Coast time. So 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And if I do my Marine Corps math right, that is 7 p.m. Central. So remember, tomorrow, 8 p.m. East Coast, 5 p.m. Pacific for Alpha 2.0. And I'm telling you guys, part 2, if you guys were fired up about this part 2 is crazy. We're going to talk about the onset of some QComs with Dan Scavino. We're going to go into the Israel part of they either concede or they're done. And I'm going to paint that. That one's going to be a phenomenal segment that I wish you guys would just clip that segment and then share that out. And then we're going to get into what went down today. And that is the White House posting on Q. I don't want to rush to that stuff. So this is that's going to be some of the stuff tomorrow. And then I'll pick up some headlines that I had that I'll add to that. So again, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. Let me go full screen with me. Let me take this off and let me get the first set of Rumble rants. So for those of you that don't know, on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, I do a show called The Middle East in 30 Minutes Ish. I do that show with Ghost of Base Patrick Henry. And during that show, we cover primarily Middle East and some other countries. Sometimes we bring into Venezuela and other areas, but it's usually stuff that's impacting what's going on in the Middle East. It's a very Middle East focused show. And during that show, we ended up getting a bunch of gifted subscriptions. Things of Holding did 5 gifted subscriptions. Good Cook gifted 5 subscriptions. So thank you both for that. And then we had $20 that came in from Berg P. This was packed with great information. Thank you guys. And I saved that this weekend because you guys are helping to support this show. And I wanted to make sure I gave you guys a shout out. And then today we have $5 that came in from Angie K. Alpha, thanks for always being the calm before the storms. Appreciate you always. I appreciate you too. And then we have Breadmaker62. Keep Breadmaker in your guys' prayer. Breadmaker, I'll tell you guys what, for all the hardship that she has on in her life, she has supported this show more than you guys will probably ever understand. She definitely answered prayers for me and my family when she had no idea. So Breadmaker62, make sure you guys keep her in your prayers. And she gifted 5 subscriptions tonight. And then $5 again from Angie K. Don't forget, Pence is the one that pushed Fauci and Burke onto Trump and was head of the team. And what is Pence doing now? A hate Trump campaign. He did. And you remember Pence got that little fly? Yep. $10 from Penn W. Thanks, Alpha. Love your information. Well, thank you. And then dollar for dollar from ZBM. Oh, thank God we're pausing early. I'm a mom of young boys, and I can never stay up long enough to end the show. As much as I love the show, Alpha, you were outdoing this middle-aged mom. Cheers. Was ZBM, I'm there with you. For those of you that don't know, too, a little family information. My little princess turned 3 this weekend. So had a little in-house little birthday party for her. So my smallest is now 3, and then my second oldest, the one that's making me a grandfather, that's having twins, had her baby shower this weekend. And she lives out in Arizona, so this was the first time Grandpa got to put his hands on the belly. And she has little boys on the right side, little girls on the left side, and it was just truly amazing to see my daughter so happy, and to see that the man in her life, to see how much he loved my daughter. I could see it. I could see how much they loved each other, and it was beautiful. And just being in the environment, it was nice. I had a really, really good week, and it was a really fantastic Father's Day. And of course, my little ones and missus took care of me and spoiled me too. So that was nice. So for all the fathers that were out there, for the fathers that are watching this show, happy Father's Day to you guys. Mad respect for you guys. You guys, we're the ones that hold down the fort, right? So that takes care of that. Let me make sure, see if we got any super chats that came in. No super chats from YouTube. That's okay. I still love you guys over there on YouTube. Didn't want to send those super chats this way tonight, but that's okay. And with that, let's close in prayer. And then again, please, folks, show up for tomorrow's show. Again, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Father, thank you for another day of life. Thank you for my audience. Thank you for my family. Thank you for another Father's Day. Father, I ask that you put your protective hands around my daughter, that you allow her babies to continue to grow healthy, that you make this a pleasant pregnancy for her, that you give a man in her life the wisdom and knowledge to make the best decisions for him and his new bride. Father, I ask for all of us, grandparents and future grandparents out there, to watch over our grandbabies and our future grandbabies. Father, I also ask that you watch over our children. Father, during the show tonight, we talked about a lot of kids that were hurt and lost their lives as a result to evil that was put upon them. Those families are still living with that loss and that absence. And Father, I ask that you have brought those families peace. Father, I ask that you watch over our president, that you protect him. You continue to guide him from those that mean to mislead him and those that mean to destroy our country. Father, give us all the courage to stand and be warriors, to have the courage to speak up when we know we should say something, to have the courage to act when we know we should do something. Father, turn all these sheep into lions and protect us. We ask and pray all this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, folks. I enjoyed your guys' company tonight. Again, this will be the end of part 1. So tune in tomorrow, just Alpha 2.0. And then depending if I have enough time at the end of the show, I'll do our guest segment. If not, then I'll just push our guest segment out later in the week. Wednesday, I will be on a plane all day, but I will be landing in time to do Operation Gladio with the Colonel. So we will still have Operation Gladio on Wednesday. But Overwatch and the Guardian, we won't be doing that this Thursday. Me and Josh will be at GART, and then as well as Geopolitics on Friday, which is the new show that I do with Chris Moreno. For those of you that aren't aware of that show is at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, and that one actually is a 30-minute show, and that is geopolitics more through like the normie lens. So definitely tune into that. But again, this Friday we won't be doing that because I'll be busy at GART. So, and same thing with the Sunday shows, Middle East in 30 minutes ish, and then Q After Hours. All those shows will continue the following week. So this week it's tomorrow's show, and then it's Gladio on Wednesday, and then we're not doing any shows until Monday night again when I come back to do Just Alpha. So just want to make sure everybody aware with that. So if you haven't done so, smash the like. And I saw a super chat came in from James Alex Rohrback, $2 super chat. God bless you, Alpha. I'd rather donate on Pilled. I got to get over there on Pilled. I will contact those guys. I think one of them reached out to me a while back too, so I'll make that happen. As a matter of fact, I'll see if I can get back on Twitch and DLive and all those places that deplatform me. Maybe we can get back over there as well. So with that, you guys, good night. God bless and Semper Fi.